Will you stop? Welcome to WWE WAR. I'm JT. That's Marcus. This is a sabermetric style, nerd-based dig into every WWE pay-per-view event of all time. Marcus, how you doing?
I'm good. Just thinking about how eventually we're going to work ourselves into a shoot by covering all the primetime wrestling episodes.
Live watches?
Possibly.
Maybe. Another idea. All right. Every year, I bank ideas all through.
Just turns into listening to Grill and Bobby for 2 hours.
Those would be tough. Like, it would actually be a real hard live watch because so much of it is audio based. But we're audio based too, but we're also visual here at the North South Connection. Launched a brand new YouTube channel in 2023. So a lot of our podcasts are coming to you in video format. If you're listening on a podcatcher app, you can go ahead and search us out on YouTube, North South Connection, and you can watch us if you want, or just go to northsouthconnection.com. Has everything you need from this here network. So on this show, Marcus, like I mentioned, we're going through every WWE pay-per-view in history. We do it in a season format. So every season starts with a pay-per-view right after WrestleMania, ends with WrestleMania the following year, kind of gives you that WWE year-long story structure. This season we're on right now started with Extreme Rules 2015. We'll end at WrestleMania 32. And we are actually nearing the end of the calendar year right now. Everything we do is based on a plus-minus system when you look at things that are better or worse than a replacement level. So to us, replacement level is something that's average. If you have an average match, a fine promo, a solid crowd, this is your most average performance. Anything that's better than that gets a plus point. Anything below that gets a minus point. We net all that out to give us our final scores. We're stack ranking every pay-per-view of all time. And then we're also using that to create season rankings as well at the end of the day to see what's the best season of all time. So we're now in the, like I mentioned, 15-16 season. We do all of that plus minus on a category basis, Marcus. So what are the categories that we review for these shows?
Yeah, our first category is build, followed up by commentary, the atmosphere of the event, notable moments and importance that happen, our match grades, card structure, rewatchability, and all-time matches, which for rewatchability, that's things that happen during the show that aren't necessarily notable moments or really important, but they're things worth going back and checking out. It could be a big spot. It could be something that just made us laugh and chuckle that's memorable. And as far as our all-time matches, that is anything for a plus that we both agree is 4.25 and above, or for a minus, anything that is 0.75 and below.
Well, I just realized I sat through that whole intro and the primetime song and didn't even flash my Gorilla and Bobby on there. So
Destiny.
Weren't on purpose and didn't even remember to do it. So yeah, those are the categories. For match grades, we do grade every match on the show. If you think of a replacement level average match as a 2.5, which is what we do, any our average score above or below that is how you get to our match grade score. So if our combo average of a match is a 4, that match gets a 1.5 because it's 1.5 better than replacement level. If it gets a 1, it loses 1.5. So everything we do is a plus minus and it nets it all out to one giant score at the end. So 1560 has been interesting. We've either had some really great stuff or just some kind of middle of the road stuff. And I think that speaks to the wrestling has all been pretty good. It just really depends on like the atmosphere and the moments. On some of these shows is very bland and not a lot happens, and some a bunch happens, and it's helped drag these up. That's pretty much been the case of all our seasons. Shows that have a lot of moments and things happening, a great crowd, and really good build do well. Shows that have build, not a lot of moments and some okay wrestling, right, do worse. So it's just a holistic view of all these shows. All right, so why don't we finish off the calendar year 2015? We're going to start with Survivor Series. Took place at the Phillips Arena in Atlanta, Georgia, 14,481, November 22nd, 2015. We still have our trio of announcers that we've been tracking throughout the season, and that is Michael Cole, Jerry Lawler, and JBL. This is actually a pretty infamous show here, Marcus. The FBI was involved, not the wrestling faction, the actual Federal Bureau of Investigation.
I was hoping we would get a Italian word of the week.
You want
yeah,
I didn't have one queued up, but I can do this for you real quick. Bafangu, I can tell you that right now. So, so the FBI was involved. due to an alleged threat by the Islamic State, IS. On November 21st, the FBI was aware of an alleged threat that includes an Atlanta, Georgia venue and event. Take all threats seriously. We do not have a specific or credible information of an attack at this time. International Business Times reported that the hacker group Anonymous are responsible for uncovering the information. WWE released a statement saying the show would go on as scheduled. And of course, there was no attack from the Islamic State, but obviously was a concern going in for anyone in the building that evening. All right. Pre-show match on the network was an actual 5-on-5 Survivor Series bout featuring the Dudley Boys, Goldust, Neville, and Titus O'Neil, defeating Bo Dallas, The Ascension, Stardust, and The Miz. What a combo that is!
Sounds like the Survivor Series match not too long ago that you and Aaron covered, or you and Chad covered on Wrestling Warzone.
Oh, the Flash Funk one, yeah, it's up there.
The Bart Gunn one, where it's like Bart and Billy had separate teams.
Yes.
Yes. That was the dark
that
match.
Was the pre-show. Yeah, that was
the pre-show.
A mess too. Neville, of course, is the only guy eliminated from the face team, and the rest were the survivors. So the Dudleys, Goldust, and Titus O'Neil. Yes, Neville was pinned by the Miz. So tells you how that's going for him. Disappointing. Let's see if he picks it up. All right, our opener saw Roman Reigns defeat Alberto Del Rio. But Marcus, we should give some quick background because this match is a tournament semifinal for the World Heavyweight title. Prior to the show, Seth Rollins blew out his knee in a match with Kane. We talked about that a little bit on our last episode. So he was injured, and they did an old school tournament to set up this pay-per-view here. So kind of in the lineage of classic Survivor Series, right? 1998. We have another one here. The first 2 rounds took place on Raw, so I'm going to run those down real quick. First round saw Roman Reigns defeat The Big Show. Cesaro beat Sheamus. Alberto Del Rio knocked off Stardust. Kalisto beat Ryback. Kevin Owens beat Titus O'Neil. Neville pinned King Barrett. Dolph Ziggler beat The Miz. And Dean Ambrose beat Tyler Breeze. In the second round, Reigns beat Cesaro. Del Rio beat Kalisto. Owens over Neville. And Ambrose over Ziggler. So that sets up our final 4 for the pay-per-view itself. And that is our opener. Roman Reigns defeating Alberto Del Rio in 14 minutes. I thought it was a pretty solid opener. Not as good as some of Reigns' stuff has been lately. And we'll also continue to see now throughout this night, right? We talked about it. He was coming in hot off that Hell in a Cell where the crowd was really into him. It was a classic all-time match with Bray Wyatt inside the cell. We'll see if the momentum with the crowd carries over here. Little so far with that, but 3 1/4 for me in the opening match.
Yeah, great blend of styles. I thought could have been really awkward, but I felt like they just got better as they kept going in the match. So 3.5 for me.
Okay. What's up next?
Our next contest is the other semifinal match. It is Dean Ambrose taking on Kevin Owens. Dean Ambrose is going to pick up the win, giving us a main event of 2 best friends going at it for the WWE title. I went in 3. Really good match, but nothing really to write home about other than that. And of course, Ambrose has another match in the evening, so that's understandable.
Yeah, I went 3 1/4 as well. I would have expected maybe a little bit more to these guys. I know they'll go on to have some good stuff coming up. So this kind of almost kickstarts a feud a little bit with them. I also thought it was fitting to go Ambrose Reigns in the finals. I think they've been the guys all year outside of Rollins, right? That's been the story. Has been the Shield battling for the world title, Money in the Bank, the WrestleMania thing. Like it's kind of been the story throughout. Reigns and Ambrose have been teaming. So why not have them be the two to kind of try to close the year out as champion? So I thought that made sense. There is a risk in there we'll talk about as we get there, but for now, that's our main event. We then had a Survivor Series style matchup next as Ryback, the Lucha Dragons, and the Usos take on New Day, Sheamus, and Barrett, and the face team actually wins this, which is a little surprising to me. Survivors are Ryback, Kalisto, and Jey Uso. We did get kind of New Day getting counted out in there. Kofi and Xavier are the team. I think they walked off pretty much, right? Or they just got to leave. So that is kind of a silly way to go about it. But it looks like they're trying to get back behind Ryback after the secret and the squash by Owens at the last pay-per-view. But a tough fall for him so far.
Yeah, 2.5 for me, even though it is replacement level. If I were going to show somebody like hey, this is just a regular Survivor Series match, this would probably not be the one that I would show. Just like a tick below what I want to see at a Survivor Series match. Next is our Divas title match as Charlotte, our champion, takes on Paige here. This match was really confusing to me. I went with a 2.25, and that's because I couldn't tell who was supposed to be the face or who was supposed to be the heel. really confusing match. Rushed in certain points. I just thought their head, it just seemed really not to be in it. Just something seemed to be off. So yeah, low grade for me.
I liked it a little better than you. I went 3.25, but you're not off. Like, it did feel a little wonky. I think they were starting to get toward the potential turn or character change here that's going to be involved, honestly, for both, but really for Paige. So this felt like the appetizer and maybe something you should have done after the change, but this felt like part one of the story. Think back to like a Ray and Eddie, right? In like '05, where they're kind of friends for the first match and then it devolves from there. It feels like that's what they're going for.
Possibly.
All right, next up we have the main roster pay-per-view debut of Tyler Breeze as he defeats Dolph Ziggler in just under 7 minutes. So Dolph's been scuffling a bit for us here this season. Breeze gets the big win in his debut. He was pretty hyped coming up from NXT. He was pretty well pushed there. So it's kind of a big deal when he came up. We'll see how long it lasts, but for now, he gets a big win. I didn't find the match to be all that compelling. I went 2.5. I thought it was actually pretty disappointing. You'd expect more maybe from Breeze in his debut, trying to really make a name for himself and establish himself, but just didn't click with Dolph.
Yep, 2.5 for me. This felt like if you've ever had a job where you've had to like train your replacement, that's what this match kind of felt like.
Although the replacement flames out quicker than the veteran. So
business is going to pick up a little bit though, as we have the Undertaker and Kane, the brothers of destruction, taking on the Wyatt family of Bray Wyatt and Luke Harper. I thought this was a cool little banger. I went 2.75. I thought it was a great way to highlight Undertaker and Kane and like what they can still do. And you had two athletic monsters in there who could really move. So I
so much Kane. So much Kane.
At least he's not fighting for the title.
So much Kane. Yeah, this is better than everything else we've seen of him for sure. It's a fine use. You know, we knew this was coming based on Hell in a Cell when the Wyatts carried Taker out after the main event. So it's fine. You know, Survivor Series has always kind of been Undertaker's event, right? That and Mania, right? You got the streak at Mania, and Survivor Series is where he made his debut and won his first world title. So they've always kind of tied that to him. So you knew they would probably do something unique or different here. Was this no, it's not like an anniversary one for him, right?
This is Undertaker 25.
Okay, that's right. So yeah, that too, right? They had to have him fight at the 25th. This is a fine way to do it, and at least you're not having Taker beat Bray again 1-on-1 like you did at Mania. So doing it this way made sense, I thought. So yeah, 2.75 for me too. It was perfectly fine. Extra draw for the card in the semi-main slot, setting up our world title finals, and that is Roman Reigns defeating his buddy Dean Ambrose. Again, I was kind of disappointed in this. My memory was that it was better. I just went 3 stars. I thought it was fine. It felt a little anticlimactic, honestly. I don't know what could have been better on the show. Like, I'm not advocating they do the whole tournament on the show. They just don't do matches like that anymore. Like in '98, there's so many Express Lane matches that it didn't matter. Because they've just done the finals on the show and given them a little bit more time, maybe, and just have Owens, do something else or whatever, or Del Rio do something else, and maybe you give them a little bit more time to tell a story. But as is, it's under 10 minutes. It's for their first match together against each other in the WWF. It felt, or WWE, it felt a little bit like a letdown to me.
I went 3.5. I liked it a little bit more than you. I thought it was a good sprint. They got through big spots pretty quickly. They did a good job of selling the exhaustion, even though, like you said, they've only had but they each had one match ahead of time, and I think it's tough to kind of sell that physical exhaustion without like the quantity of matches on the card. It's tough to sell like, oh, they went through like this whole tournament. Well, like if you're just watching the pay-per-view or you haven't seen the Raw or whatever, like that doesn't really matter to you. So yeah, 3.5 for me. We've got the crowning of the big dog Roman Reigns finally, or so it seems, because right after the match is done, well, not right after, it's going to take a few minutes, but we're going to get to Sheamus using his Money in the Bank to cash in successfully on Roman Reigns. He's going to hit 2 bro kicks, and we have a new WWE World Champion in Sheamus.
So yeah, I went 2 on this. I mean, it's just it's like whatever. It's like under a minute, so it's hard to really grade it. My standard for this is like a 2.5. I just didn't think this one was that compelling, so I actually dropped it a little bit below like my standard average cash in. They did do a decent tease with Reigns surviving the first one, and you got to think like, okay, Reigns, he had his big night. He's going to knock both these guys off and reign on as champion. You just didn't see Sheamus being the guy to beat him. But he is. And it makes you wonder, like, should, for the second time this year, for all they want to do to get behind Reigns and make him the super guy, you've now cut his balls off twice on major pay-per-views, right? Like, just fucking do it if you're going to do it. I think the Cash in a Mania, for as memorable and great as that moment was a big first fuck up. Because even though everyone was kind of against him and booing him, they wanted to rehab him, you're there, just do it, right? And that match is so, he takes such a shit kicking and you actually kind of get behind him. Then he gets hosed. Then you get here, you just spent the whole summer building this freaking guy up. And now you have him get screwed again, like right away, and lose the belt again. He's starting to look like a clown. And then, yeah, they want to get to Mania and have him be the challenger, but that's not even from the storyline. You know what I mean? Like, there's another thing in between. I think Sheamus should have failed here. I would have had him try and Reigns survives, and now you put him over super strong. That he's beating 3 guys on the same night, including one when he's fresh. Or just hold off on the cash in a little bit more. Like, you have time. He doesn't have to do it until next June. So there's no need to really do it here if you didn't have to. I thought it was a rush. And it didn't need to happen. And then on top of it, I meant to mention this a minute ago. My issue with having Reigns and Ambrose in the finals is you're splitting his pop. So again, you've spent all this time trying to rehab this guy, and you have him go against an over face. I think they could have done something creative and had Sheamus make the finals. I think you could have done Reigns, Owens, and Ambrose Sheamus, and do Reigns Sheamus in the final. And now this is kind of new to Sheamus, but whatever. Reigns beats him in the finals, and Sheamus immediately cashes in and loses again. Right? You could do something like that if you want to make it kind of memorable. Then at least Sheamus is kind of worn down, but he kind of panics and just like maybe beats down Reigns after the match, and then he says "fuck it" and cashes in, and then Reigns comes back again on him. At least it's something different than what they did here, where they split Reigns. It just goes against everything they tried to do all summer and trying to rebuild Reigns by putting him with Ambrose. You immediately split his pop in the tournament final, and then have Sheamus cut his balls off to end the show.
Yeah, I went 2.5 for the match itself. The standard Money in the Bank cash in, but it's like they forget how to book a top face. You know, Hogan, you didn't book Hulk Hogan for sympathy necessarily. Got a sympathy in his matches, and Roman really got over in that WrestleMania 31 match with Brock because of his selling in the match and his reactions and the beating that he took. It wasn't because he was booked a certain way before or afterwards. And they do it again here. Like, having Roman survive the tournament, be tough, have 2 good matches in a night, having him sell, like, that's how he gets over. And like the Cell match, he's, like we said, he was firing on all cylinders after that from the Hell in a Cell show. That's because of the selling. Like, he's really good at that. He's really good in ring, and that's where he gets his sympathy. And that's where all great baby faces get their sympathy from. It's not from the booking. And it's like they're determined to force their booking to make stuff happen. And like you said, they cut his water off again. And with a strong character like Roman Reigns, it's not what you should be doing. Like, if this was Rey Mysterio, then like, okay, maybe, but not a 6'4", 265-pound Samoan, generational talent. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay. All right, so that nets out to a total score of 3 for in-ring. So if you've been following us along through the season, still pretty good, but not where the level has been established for the season. Like, if you look back at previous ones, Hell in a Cell was at 5.25, Night of Champions 6.25, SummerSlam 10.25, Battleground 5.5, Money in the Bank 5. You have to really go back to that real terrible Elimination Chamber at 3.5 to kind of get to this level. So not really a very good in-ring show is Survivor Series. But let's see if the rest of the surrounding pieces can carry it up. So our plus minus for build, we give a point for the legacy of 25 years to Undertaker. They really lean into that. A point for the ongoing story of the Shield finals. Again, Reigns and Ambrose, the relationship all through the year leads to this moment. A point for Paige getting jealous and kind of turns, like you said, to chase Charlotte. Not fully turned yet, maybe, but getting there. A point for Tyler Breeze making an impact in his debut on TV. And a point for the Wyatts and Brothers of Destruction giving a story instead of just a tribute match. They actually made it an angle, right? They could have just had Taker. They could have just said, "Oh, they're going to face these guys. It's 25 years of Taker," but instead they built it from Hell in a Cell to Survivor Series to give it a reason of happening. It's not just a tribute match.
Yep. All right, let's get into our minuses. We've got random Survivor Series match without any personal issues, just kind of throwing it out there. And then the ongoing summer Dolph drama. Can't believe it's still going on.
Yeah, it's a part of the Breeze match. It's like still. So, but that's a +4 on build. So pretty good. Now let's get to commentary, something we haven't been a big fans of at all this season. We give a point for the good job telling the story of Reigns wanting to win the title on its own. He turns down Hunter's offer to have the Authority help him win, basically, and hook them up. He says, no, I'm going to go on my own. And they do a good job summarizing and putting over Owen's character accomplishments. They've done that quite a bit, honestly, in this season, talking about how he's in it for the gold, for the money, for his family. So they do always do a good job telling that story.
Yeah. Let's get into our minuses. We've got the season-long issue of yuck chatter with our commentary team. Lawler's extra corny with his jokes tonight. He feels more outdated than usual. Due to the straight talking style, there's no additional excitement or elevated like tone or voices to carry over or like carry the action with like this dead crowd.
When the crowd's dead, it's like this is a big one for this season. Like when the crowd's not into something, there's not the gorilla or the Vin, like the bombastic, even Shivani, JR, where they're like, oh my God, they're really carrying it.
Right.
It's like they're just talking. So it's like it gets really boring when the crowd's not engaged in something. Where they're just chatting and still cracking jokes, except for Cole trying to point things out. It's a rough setup they have right now during the season with this team.
Yeah, and it's not even like interesting chatter too. Like if the crowd is dead, crowd's dead in like 1988. Like Gorilla and Jesse can freestyle for 5 minutes about Demolition's ring gear and like is it legal or not? Like there's none of that here.
It's just so like JBL and King are characters, but they don't feel it in this run. There's no strong heel. They're just kind of buddy yuck. It's like Buck and Aikman. You know what I mean? It's just like whatever. It's just chatty.
Finish out our minuses. We've got the muted celebration for Reigns finally winning, and so much talk all night of being the face of the company, representing WWE, having your face on like the truck. It's too much. It's more of like being employee of the month than it is.
Yeah, it's a big problem during the stretch. This and the corporate, I think we talked about this on one of our previous episodes, the corporate stuff, like, we got to care about branding and this and that, like advertising. Like no one wants to hear about this shit. Like I don't care about your decks and your press and all that. Like that's what this company's all about in this season 2015. It's all about, branding, who's going to be the face of the company, corporate structure, who's the director of operations, like who gives a fuck about any of that. They were so obsessed with that stuff during this time frame. It gets really boring. And it also, you mentioned Reigns, like the muted celebration. Think back to that crowd in LA for Hell in a Cell. In Night of Champions, you had Rollins fight twice, right? What if they doubled down on that concept and they said if the winner of the Hell in a Cell faces the world champion at the end of the night, if Rollins can get by Kane or whatever, and have Reigns beat Rollins on that night instead of doing, they didn't know Rollins was going to get hurt, but it would have saved them from the tournament. And he was so over on that night, you almost wonder like, oh, that would have been a cool way to pull the trigger and have him, come off hot off the cell and beat Rollins in the main event. And it pays off back-to-back months of Rollins having to fight twice,
Yeah.
All right, so then that's up to a -4 for commentary, so washes out the bill. Atmosphere, we give a point for Lillian crushing the national anthem. She did a really good job here, actually. So a point for that. A point for the Dean Ambrose pop in his first match was really good. A point for the crowd into the New Day. This really buy into the antics really well. A point for the Wyatt family entrance, always a point for that. And then a point for the crowd chanting for Undertaker and the big pop he gets when he comes out.
For our minuses, we've got a basic looking set and overall look at the event itself. Doesn't feel like Survivor Series. There's no special vibe to it. It just feels like another show. The crowd is kind of out on Reigns all night, which is unfortunate with how hot he was at Hell in a Cell. Crowd is pretty quiet for all of the entrances. Nobody really gets a huge pop. Crowd is definitely quiet during the Charlotte Page match. It hurts the drama of the story that they're trying to tell. And the crowd is asleep for every match outside of a couple moments here and there. And we went -2 for that as well.
Yep. So that gives us a -2 for atmosphere. One of our worst crowds probably the season so far. Just not into, they're just out of it. For a big show like this with the world title, guaranteed world title change, haven't been too engaged. All right, notable moments. Point for the Survivor Series World Title Tournament. Kind of, like you said, a little bit of a tradition now. 2 points for the Usos making their pay-per-view debut. Obviously, one of the greatest tag teams in company history, one of the most important acts in company history. So they make their pay-per-view debut here. It's a big deal. They've actually been around. Actually, is that really the
I think
first pay-per-view?
they make their season debut.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure they're on other. They got to be on other
I was gonna
pay-per-views.
say
I would
they
think.
debuted in like 09.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're on other shows, but this is their season debut because one of the Usos was hurt.
Right. Let's double check that. If it's just a season debut, I think we should take those points off.
Yeah,
What do you think?
I agree. Yeah,
Producer Tim, can you verify for us? I'm pretty sure that the Usos had. They debuted in 09. I gotta think they had one. I mean, there's a chance maybe they hadn't, but we can see. Let's find that out. All right, we'll come back to that. A point for Tyler Breeze. We know it's his debut, his first pay-per-view match and win. A point for The Undertaker's 25th anniversary match. That's a big moment. A point for Reigns winning the world title, and a point for Sheamus winning the world title. So, we get some moments on this show.
that's some big stuff. For our minuses, we've got a weak in-ring showing for Barrett, although I did appreciate him shaking that thing on the outside. It was pretty funny. But Barrett feels stuck in neutral, and maybe we can talk about that afterwards. Wyatt loses to Undertaker again, and Reigns' title reign is neutered once again. Real quick about Barrett, it's kind of all the dudes that they throw in the League of Nations. They all play the same character and occupy the same spot on the card. So like whether it's Sheamus, it's Barrett, it's Del Rio, it's Rusev, it's Cesaro, they all kind of like fit the same role. So they're just pretty redundant.
All right, so Tim has confirmed they made a pay-per-view way back in 2010.
Okay.
So we're going to take those 2 points away, which is going to drop. Made the updates there. All right, so for notable moments and importance, that's going to leave us at a. Actually, did you finish going through the negatives?
Yep, that was it.
Okay. All right, that's going to leave us at a 2 there. So not a lot, not as much as we would have thought originally. We went 3 for the match grades. We talked about that. Card structure. You kind of bookend the card with the tournament. That was well done. Open with the semis and close with the final. A point for having a classic Survivor Series match on the card. So good on them for that. A point for putting Taker semi-main. It was worthy of that slot. And a point to close with the tournament finals.
Yeah, and our only minus was that segment to close the show just took forever. It's another like 5 or 7 minute segment. It just takes way too long to get to the point.
So that's a 3 for card structure, which is pretty rare to be in the positives in this season. I feel like that's been one of the drags a lot in these more current shows. Rewatchability, we give a point for the New Day's promo and Xavier Woods' hair, which is kind of a funny running joke throughout this, where it's got the real. I don't know, how would you describe it, Marcus?
Is this the one where he's got the?
It's kind of got the Coco Beware
grease?
from like '88.
Yeah.
What did Jesse Ventura once say?
It wasn't the buckwheat, was it?
No, it's like died fried and laid to the side or something.
Oh yeah,
that was a Jesse. Right. I think he said that about Coco.
Yeah.
He says it here for Xavier, but that promos, they're always good. It's worth a rewatch. A point for the stereo planches by the Usos and Lucha Dragons onto Ryback. I must say Lucha Brothers. Onto Ryback. Onto the heels, followed by a Ryback plancha. So that was cool, seeing all 5 of them hit dives to the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And then a point for Sheamus cashing in the Money in the Bank and a big pool of confetti. So that was a cool moment to see that happen as he attacks. So some decent rewatchable moments here.
Yeah. And our only minus for rewatchability is New Day just leaving with Big E once Big E is eliminated. Just kind of ruins the vibe of the whole match.
Mm-hmm. All right, so 2 for that. No all-time matches, as you've heard. And that gives us a total of 8, Marcus. So this is not a great showing for Survivor Series. Maybe one of the... I don't want to call it one of the worst Survivor Series ever, because if you're looking at it like most people probably do, it's fine. And the match, there's no bad matches. It's just when you consider all the other shit that we do, it just does not finish terribly high. So we actually have it as our 47th best show out of 65 so far.
And without that Rollins injury, it makes me wonder, what did they have planned for the show? Because it seemed all the marketing, everything seemed contingent on Undertaker 25. So like,
I'm guessing a Shield 3-way. I think we were going to get Reigns, Ambrose, Rollins. Okay. And Sheamus cash in. I think Reigns wins the belt in the 3-way, and then
Okay.
It seems like, because why else would you do Reigns Ambrose? Like, they had to have something planned around that, and that's been the story all year. I'm guessing they were going to wrap with that Shield story with Reigns winning the belt back,
Okay.
and then Sheamus cashes in. I don't know that from anything. It's just a guess. All right, so at 8, yeah, that puts her just below Extreme Rules 11, just above Survivor Series 94 and Great American Bash 04. So that's the kind of company it keeps
Yeah.
down low. Not the best. Any final thoughts on that show?
Nope. I'm ready to get out of here and on to the next one.
All right, let's dive into our next show. And that is TLC 2015, Tables, Ladders, and Chairs, December 13th from the TD Garden in Boston, 14,903. That includes members of Place to Be Nation, including myself, Marcus. I was actually at the show live. We went to Buffalo Wild Wings before the show, watched football, all the early games and into some of the evening games. And then it was actually a pretty infamous one. So the Cowboy, which we had done before for Boston shows, rented a van to drive us all up. But the only thing he could get was one of those transit vans with no windows. So he pulls up to my house. He's got like this huge transit van. It's such a creeper van. We all pile in. He had a hell of a time parking that thing in the garage in Boston too. It was a close call trying to get that thing in and out of the spot. But we all loaded in, went to Wild Wings up on the South Shore, and then headed over to the Garden for this pay-per-view. So it was a pretty fun outing. Had a pretty good crew at that one. And we were privy to a pre-show match of Sasha Banks defeating Becky Lynch in under 12 minutes. And I remember thinking, like, wow, this is a pre-show match. It's a pretty cool one to get to see. Obviously, they had both been on the roster to that point, but not really pushing anyway, the two of them, seriously. So it was cool to kind of get to see that match beforehand.
That's cool. That's a cool pre-show match.
Yeah. All right, our opener is The New Day defeating the Lucha Dragons and the Usos in a triple threat tag team ladder match for the tag team titles. This is a pretty famous match. It goes 18 minutes, and it is a banger. It has the all-time spot. I remember losing my shit, and we had pretty good seats. We were up a level, but we were pretty much dead even with the ring. And I happened to video because you could kind of think something was happening. So I have a video of the spot on my phone live. The Salida de Sol that Kalisto does. It was Kalisto or Sin Cara?
Kalisto.
Yeah, does it off the ladder through the ladder bridge, and I'll never forget the way they float is the most amazing part of it. Like it is like time stopped when he's doing the move. It's an amazing move, and a great match. So I thought it held up wonderfully for me. Maybe even better, because I think in your mind you may think it's just that spot and the rest is whatever, but the whole match is fantastic. I went 4 1/4. I thought it's all time great.
4 1/4 for me as well. That makes it an all-time great match for both of us. Yeah, and that's one of the greatest spots, I think, in company history. I wish it got shown a little bit more when they kind of highlight all the crazy spots that have happened. Insane spot and insane match. They really do a good job with like a modernized new take on the triple threat TLC match. Our next match of the evening is the Ryback taking on Rusev. Rusev's going to pick up the win. I went 2.75, just kind of big men slapping meats, and that's always good for at least 2 3/4 for me.
Yeah, I went 3. It was actually a little bit better than I remembered. Just under 8 minutes, so they really beat each other up, and it was good to see Rusev back on track. Lana's back with him. We get the League of Nations thing kind of rehabbed him a bit after he had lost his way after the Cena feud. So this is a nice little rehab, have him beat Ryback. Ryback's whatever. He's been up and down. He's at least still featured, and it feels like a win when you beat him at this point. So I like the match decent enough, and it was good to see Rusev get the win. Our next match was a chairs match for the United States title as Alberto Del Rio takes on Jack Swagger. So we haven't really seen Swagger much. They kind of lean into Swagger being Zeb's old charge and him defending America against Mexicana, whatever. It keeps screwing up, whatever it was that they were doing with Del Rio and Zeb. This actually surprised me again. I thought this was pretty fun. It was pretty hard hitting. Swagger had a lot of fire as a face in this. I think he really leaned into the gimmick. The crowd was into him. The chair stuff worked for me. So I went 3 1/4. Like I did not expect this to hit. And to this point, I was surprised because in my mind, I this only stood out as a one match show. It was one of those ones that it peaked at the beginning with a great spot, and the rest was whatever. But 3 matches in, I'm like, oh wait, maybe this show's better than I thought.
Yeah, 3.25 for me too. I really like Swagger as a babyface. And I thought this was a pretty good chairs match. It's kind of a silly gimmick, but I thought they made it work as best as possible.
Yeah.
Our next match is a tables match, and it is the Wyatt family taking on the ECW contingent of Tommy Dreamer, Rhino, and the Dudley Boys. I went 3.25. I liked this a good amount. They didn't overthink anything. It was all action. It was nonstop, and a lot of fun.
Yeah, so below you with the 275, but it was a cool gimmick to bring Dreamer in, bring Rhino with the kind of the surprise return there, and kind of go old school ECW team versus the Wyatts. Like, I'm always kind of a fan of when they have those groups around OD, whether it was RVD was around for a little bit, or a team like this, Dreamer, Rhino, Dudley's, like having that little faction be united. I mean, it could be the ECW market me, whatever, but like I think it was just cool to have those guys around to be able to do stuff like this. So yeah, I went 275. It was perfectly fine. It's a good way to reestablish the Wyatts after the beatdown by Taker and Kane as well. So kind of maybe gets them back going again. All right, we mentioned that Dean Ambrose and Kevin Owens would have a feud coming off of Survivor Series, and here they are fighting for the Intercontinental title, which Dean Ambrose wins, defeating Kevin Owens. I went 3.5. It was a really damn good match. They have good chemistry. We saw that a little bit last month. They didn't get a lot of time. This time around, they're given more, and the match itself goes just under 10, so not a ton still, but a little bit more. And we'll see that this feud will continue on as it becomes more of a rivalry over the title than anything else. So I thought it was a pretty good match.
Yep, co-sign everything you said. 3.5 for me as well.
Okay.
And that takes us to our Divas title match as Charlotte once again defends against Paige. I went 3.25. I thought that this match was much better than the Survivor Series match. It seems like the dynamics are a little bit more clearly defined. And we're still seeing Charlotte get more comfortable into her heel persona, and really enjoy seeing her grow this season.
Yeah, I went 3.25 as well, which is actually on par. So I thought it was about just as good as Survivor Series, which I liked. And yeah, I think I think the Paige turn made sense because there's such a natural story there with her feeling like, well, what the fuck? Like I was her and Emma. They really could have used Emma. I don't know if she's still around at this point or not. I know they had kind of done the stupid bubble popping thing with her, but I think like the story of her and Emma feeling slighted after they rebuilt the women's division on NXT, and then in NXT and the main roster, they're looked at as like, okay, Becky, Sasha, and Charlotte are kicking off the revolution. Like I think it's a natural story for Paige to be like, well, what the hell? Like, why don't I get the same respect or adoration that they're getting to like rebuild women's wrestling in the company? So I thought that was like natural to have her turn heel and be bitter about it, and it worked well. So 3.25 there. That brings us to our main event, which is a TLC match. That is Roman Reigns losing to Sheamus. Again, Sheamus retains the world title, defeating Reigns just under 24 minutes. I went 4. It's really good, but it could have been better. And part of that is it's too fucking long. Like 24 minutes. That back end it does drag a bit. Like we didn't need to go 24 minutes. Like to me, a TLC match, 24 minutes should be like a tag or a 6-man. A one-on-one TLC at 25 minutes is just too much. It's too long. And that goes for ladder matches too. Like none of that shit. Like under 20 and out for something like that. Like in and out. When you're getting over 20, it's like, all right, like what are we doing? And then now they're overthinking Reigns. Like, what are we doing? This is the third time that we could have done this and we're not doing it. Like you're not going to make him any hotter because it's not going to happen. So just do it or don't do it. If he's not going to win here, he should just not win. Don't have him win here, lose here, and then win the next night on Raw, which is what they do. Now, that I think that gets a pretty big pop the next night, if I remember, and what they do in the post here is okay. So, yeah. I don't know. Maybe they knew what they were doing, and I don't, because that was probably the hottest crowd of the 3, Survivor Series here and then Raw. So, whatever. But it just felt like, again, like they're neutering him instead of just going all in.
Yeah, they're trying to get him to be as hot as he was coming out of Hell in a Cell, which it works, but I mean, it's pulling teeth. It's going around your elbow to wipe your backside. Like this, it's taken way too much effort to try to get Roman to be what he really needs to be. And if they would just book him to win and be unapologetic about it, then and have him walk tall, there'd be no issues. But yeah, the frustration boiling over and him attacking everybody after the match and snapping and getting a Triple H. It was a good way to close out the show. The Boston crowd finally did wake up for that. I mean, they're pretty good all night, but that was like their high point. But yeah, that's it for me. 4 for me.
Okay. All right. So that gives us a total match score grade of 6. I'm sorry. Yeah, 6. So that's a pretty good show right there. And again, it was better than I remembered it being. Like as someone who was there live, I did not remember the rest of the card being that good. Maybe I remembered kind of a quiet crowd in the main event and Reigns losing, and that soured it in my head, perhaps like a 24-minute. I remember being tired probably by the end. So, all right, let's get to our categories for the build. We give a point for Reigns and the Authority at War, leading to Sheamus as champion. Del Rio dumping Zeb. It didn't make sense from the start, so I was fine with that. The ECW Wyatt's feud was pretty well built, leading to the surprise returns. Owens and Ambrose, the multi-month feud, kind of kicked off a Survivor Series and rages on. Paige continuing to press that Charlotte is cheating and leading to her reputation taking hits. So a lot of good build into this show.
Yep. For our minuses, we've got no real tag feud getting us to the ladder match. More relationship BS with Rusev and Lana. We've got the microwaved push of Swagger into being a contender. As usual, it's been a theme for the U.S. title this season. No idea who the face or heel is in the Charlotte Paige feud. And the only clear face really is Becky, who is not a part of the pay-per-view match.
Right. She's just kind of in between. So I know we kind of have it in both columns. But Paige is right in what she's saying, right? The build itself is good, but it's still like who are we supposed to... It's like the old Savage Hogan. Like, okay, I know they want me to make Savage the heel, but he's kind of right about everything. That's what I felt like here. Like Paige is kind of right. But it also, I think it does help fuel what's coming for Charlotte. So again, Paige is always just seems like the precursor for the bigger stuff, unfortunately for her. So it's a 1 for build. Commentary, Woods was awesome. Xavier Woods in the opener. He's on commentary for that whole match. He's just like adds so much extra vibrance to it. A point for the commentary doing really well with the Flair family cheating storyline, with Rick starting to kind of seep into Charlotte and what she's got going on. And a point for JBL, talking about executing a great game plan as Reigns gets Sheamus early on.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that added an extra element to their match. Just anytime they actually talk about game planning and stuff like that, it's like, okay, you guys are actually contributing. For our minuses, we've got announcers discussing Lana and Rusev's and their relationships dynamic. Just has really no benefit to anyone or anything.
It's been one of the worst parts of the season is anything to do with the two of them.
Yeah. King is really annoying trying to troll JBL about Ambrose doing all sorts of publicity now that he's the U.S. or the Intercontinental Champion again with his face on the side of the truck and showing up for this appearance and that appearance. It's kind of more like that corporate, corporate face stuff. It gets pretty annoying.
All right, so that's a 1 as well for commentary. Let's get to atmosphere. We give a point for the hot New Day entrance. And during the match, they're kind of slowly being turned face. We're seeing that, right, through their reactions month after month. A point for the red hot crowd during the opening match. A point for the crowd behind Swagger and We the People, out of nowhere. He's super over. A point for the Wyatt entrance, as always. A point for the rocking crowd during Ambrose and Owens. A point for the Flair family entrance, which is really good with Charlotte and Rick coming out. A point for the rowdy vibe when Reigns is just destroying everyone post-match. We didn't talk about that. We'll get to it in a minute. And then a point for the crowd into Rusev Ryback as a Haas match as well. So this crowd's pretty low-key, really good. Maybe one of the best of the season.
Yeah. Let's get into the minuses, though. We got the dueling Cena chants during the main event, even though it wasn't there. Boring chants during the main event as well. Crowd still not fully pumped and on board with Reigns after killing himself all match, where he finally gets to stand tall on his own and then wrecks the Authority and the League of Nations.
Right. So it's all right, are we done? Are we not? The crowd's still not vibing on him. So that's a 5 for atmosphere. So again, a really good crowd. For notable moments, we gave the Super Salida de Sol a point. Obviously an all-time spot. Ambrose winning the IC title, a point. Charlotte leaning heel after the match, a point. A point for the pay-per-view debut of the League of Nations as a group. And a point for the post-match. We'll talk about now. So after the main event, Reigns snaps and just destroys, like you said, League of Nations, Authority, just beats the shit out of Hunter. Like leaves him a mess. Stephanie is crying. Like it's just a disaster. And to me, Marcus, when you think about where they go from here, we'll cover this over our next 2 episodes. Again, like, what are we doing? Like, yeah, everyone hates the Authority. They're sick of the Authority. But they completely make this a sympathetic situation with Hunter. Like, he beats him within an inch of his life. His wife is watching. Like, you feel like, as hated as he is, it reminded me of Brett and Vince at 26. Like, they fuck it up so bad that Vince is getting sympathy against Bret Hart, right? It's like Hunter is getting sympathy because Reigns is just not that over. And he's beating a man within an inch of his life gratuitously in front of his family. So it's like, enough. I would have had them do something like Ambrose comes out to help. They chain Reigns to the rope, and now they're just kicking the shit out of Ambrose. And Reigns busts free, cleans house, and then there's payback. There's something like, this is the guy angry he lost a match. It's like he snapped because the numbers are big against him, but like, I don't feel that bad for him. I mean, like, he just had a world title shot. Like I know he kept getting fucked, but it just felt like a little. They found a way to make Hunter sympathetic, which is not the way you want to go.
The rare instance of Triple H showing a weakness.
Right?
And this is what happens.
And he's a heel. Like, where was this in 2000?
Oh, man. Or any other seasons we covered.
All right. What do you got for the negatives on moments?
Oh, we've got the big dog, Roman Reigns, losing yet again. And that's it.
That's it. All right. So that's a 4 for notable moments. We give a 6 for match grades. Card structure, we give a point for starting hot with the tag team ladder war. A point for the good blending of gimmicks throughout the show. So we get the chairs, we get the tables, we get the like, it was a good mix. A point for the women's matches. They feel more like a semi-main instead of a death slot. It's the same spot on the card, but the presentation is so key. It doesn't feel like it did back in the old days where it's like, all right, Kelly and Candice going out there, right? And I felt like, all right, just killed 3 minutes before the main event. This feels like it's a semi-main event match now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good to see.
And then a point for closing with the world title match.
All right. Our minus is teasing the fire table spot and not delivering.
Oh yeah,
deliver. Yeah. And then the long post main event segment once again.
Right. It doesn't even have to be one of the new. Like, you got to find not new. Like, there had to be someone that they could have put in there to get the flaming table.
Oh.
All right. So that's a 2 for card structure. Rewatchability, we give a point for the New Day promo, as always. We gave 2 for the Super Salida del Sol. That's like a GIF you can watch over and over.
Yeah.
A point for Xavier throwing the trombone at Kalisto while he's climbing the ladder was great. A point for Del Rio, did a top rope double stomp into a pile of chairs, which was nasty. And then a point for Kevin Owens pre-match promo, which was great.
Our minuses, we've got the tweets ticking along at the bottom, kind of scrolling along during
Save it for the death matches, not this red hot ladder war and we're putting tweets up. Like, what are we doing?
Right, trying to talk about Twitter. Yeah, it's they still don't have a hang on it in 2015. Awkward K Jewelers pre-Raw proposal ad, which Jimmy Uso and Naomi. It's so cooked up and campy. I know the money's good and it's good for the business, but like, it's bad for the product.
All right, so that is a 4 for rewatchability. So a pretty rewatchable show. All-time matches, we went with the opening ladder match, of course. That was 4.25 for both of us. That's 1 there. And Marcus, and that's out to a very strong showing at 24 points for TLC 2015. So a really great show. I think it surprised me with how well it held up. Again, I remembered the great spot in the beginning and the beatdown at the end and not much in between, but it held up. There was a lot of really good stuff in here. And for as maligned as maybe some of these years are, like 2015, the fall delivered. Like, Night of Champions was really good. Hell in a Cell was very solid. Survivor Series, whatever, but it was memorable. And then this show may be the best December show that they've ever done. I mean, it's like, there's a lot going on here. December is usually one of the worst shows of the year. Mm-hmm. So that finishes top 10 for us. That's our 10th place show right now. Wow. And it's 1 point higher than SummerSlam 2011, which is, I think, pretty surprising.
Absolutely. A lot of depth coming from like the undercard, I think. It's not really like the main event carrying it. It's the tag scene's heating up. The women's division is on fire. Those kind of feel like the 2 main reasons the back half of this fall-winter season has really picked up.
Yeah, I agree. All right, you want to do our top 10 before we wrap?
Absolutely.
All right, our new number 10 show, TLC 2015 at 24 points.
Fully Loaded in 1999 coming in at 9 with 26.25.
Right above that, TakeOver War Games 2, 26.5.
NXT TakeOver in New York with a 28.25.
Number 7 is Royal Rumble 2000 at 28.5.
Money in the Bank 2011 with a 28.75.
Our 5th place show is WrestleMania 21 with 33.5.
SummerSlam at 2015 with a 35.25.
Our 2nd place show is Royal Rumble 05 with 36.5.
And our number 1 show still, the highly controversial SummerSlam 1999 with a WAR score of 38.25.
So there you have it. At the end of this recording, we've done 66 pay-per-view events, Marcus. So we are chugging along. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time. We have Royal Rumble 2016. We have Fastlane 2016. And then before you know it, a month from today, we'll be on our final airing. I should say our season finale of that. Listen, check out everything we have to offer here at the North South Connection. I know this show has moved days quite a bit. We're on Thursdays now in the new year. I think we started on Fridays, moved to Saturdays. Now we're on Thursdays. Hopefully this is our home. Done some shuffling. So every Thursday the show will be out on audio on any podcatcher app or on our YouTube channel, North South Connection. So you can follow us, find us at the following places. NorthSouthConnection.com has everything. We're going to post every audio, every video there for us. We are then going to have all the audio on our usual podcatcher apps, right? Just going to go to Podbean. You can find us in North South Connection on any podcatcher tool. And then also all our video will be on our YouTube page. So if you just search North South Connection on YouTube, subscribe to us there, you'll get all of our video content. We're on a bunch of social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, where Aaron's been doing some great figure reviews and some other stuff as well. So you can find us on all social media. So for Marcus, I'm JT. Live your life above replacement level. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks' time. Take care.